How's everybody tonight?
Well,
Well, oh, good. We got somebody speaking for the group. That's a good
We're
thing.
pretty good here.
Everybody's going to say good or well. I appreciate that. Did you have a good day?
yes,
Progressive? Productive? Neat,
yes.
smart? Good, good. Very good. See, we got 8 participants here. See who's missing. Yeah, there's a couple missing. Oh, Steve's on here twice. That's good.
Trying out my pooter.
Okay. Smith's coming in. I'm going to ask you, first of all, to pop your name into the chat. Put your name in there so I know you're here. Somebody's letting them in. That's weird. Again, put your name into the chat so we know you're here. I have to say it again for Sandra. Sandra, put your name in the chat so we know you're here. Last week's didn't come out. No, put your real name, not your pen name. I promise I won't pass it on to anybody, especially the police or the COVID Gestapo. Let's see here. Is somebody a host on here? There we go. My my menu board never came up until just now. Let's start off with a couple of terms. Just 3 tonight. The first is exegesis. It means concerning, say, Bible study or concerning putting together a talk based on a biblical text. Exegesis is what you can take out of a text. It's what you can bring out of it, what you analyze in it, what it means, what it says it means without any kind of analysis. Eisegesis is something like the opposite. Eisegesis means putting something in that wasn't there. So you can see that those two are pretty much opposites: exegesis, eisegesis. The next term is case history, something I hope that you'll become familiar with tonight, because it's a tool that we're going to use probably the rest of the time. And now we'll try a little exegesis. I hope everybody got their passage for tonight. And what I ask you to do is to interpret the passage in your own words. That is, do some eisegesis on it and then analyze it a little bit, just enough to see, to let everybody else know what you get. And I'd ask you just not to take more than 3 to 5 minutes. That's all you need. Because these are very short passages. And we'll proceed by reading the passage and then getting your exegesis out of the passage, then telling us from your perspective what, if anything, it means. Because I think there are a couple in here that really don't have a whole lot of meaning to them. So can we start at the top? Steve's at the top of the list with Wisdom 6:12 through 16. Do you have it? I guess we need to pray first. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our continuing bread, and forgive us our trespasses, our sin debts, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation or into the test, but deliver us from the evil one. Amen. Just tell me, do you have it or not, Steve?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It's up. Let me get back here.
Okay. Rest of you, maybe you can get ready in the meantime.
It says, for who can say to you, what have you done? Or who can oppose your decree? Or when peoples perish, who can challenge you, their maker? Or who can come into your presence to vindicate the unrighteous? For neither is there any God besides you who have the care of all, that you need show you have not unjustly condemned, nor can any king or prince confront you on behalf of those you have punished. But as you are righteous, you govern all things in righteously. You regard it as unworthy of your power to punish one who has incurred no blame, for your might is the source of righteousness. And it's basically saying uh, nobody's a just judge besides you. And it's talking about Yahweh, and He's the judge of all, and nobody can say anything against it. Nobody has the right to.
Is there any
What
conditions,
I get at.
Steve? Is there conditions on it of some kind? Like you said that nobody can judge you.
Except Him, yes. The only thing we have is we have a mediator between us and Him, and that's Yeshua.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing a little bit of eisegesis there. You're bringing Yeshua into that when he's not really in there, but you're interpreting that then that way. Okay, that's what it means to you?
Yes.
Okay, any comments? This has got to be somewhat interactive. Do you think he did enough? Did too little? Too much? Okay, let's go on to Greg if Greg's here.
Yes, sir, I am. I have Wisdom chapter 7, verse 22 through 25. And it says, for wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me, for in her is an understanding Ruach, holy, one holy, manifold, subtle, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good and quick, which cannot be letted, ready to do good, kind to man, steadfast, sure, free from care, having all power, overseeing all things and going through all understanding, pure and most subtle Ruach. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passes and goes through all things by reason of her pureness, for she is the breath of all power of Elohim. And when I read that, what I did first is I went to just the word Hokmah in Hebrew, and I broke that down. And Hokmah is 4 letters. It's the Het, the Kaf, the Mem, and the He. And the meaning of those words in Hebrew of the letter Het means like a new beginning and separation from sin. The Kuf, that meaning can be bent, or it's typical to be like, you have to be humble in order to get this. And the Mem has to do with like water or immersion, or the source by the means of which it comes about. And the He has to do with exhalation or like the breath or the movement of air and spirit. It has to do with femininity or gentleness. And femininity, like sometimes in Paul, like some of his translated, like the woman is the weaker vessel, but a better translation of that is, I think, it's delicate, and because she seems to be spiritual. And I also did the gematria of the word, and the het is 8, the kof was 20, and the mem was 40, and it is the hay was 8, and the total of it was 76, and 70 is a type of perfection. And I looked up in E.W. Bollinger's, if you want me to read it, I can read what it means.
Go ahead for everybody else's inspiration. Yes, I've used Bollinger. Go ahead and try it. 76.
He doesn't actually, the word 76 isn't actually used, but the word 70 and 6,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get there. It says, hence 7 times 10 signifies perfect spiritual order carried out with all spiritual power and significance. Both spirit and order are greatly emphasized. And that's just 70, but 6 is the number of man. And so that would be something that's for man. And and then also when you read that, I likened it to Genesis 1 verse 2, where Yahweh spoke over the waters and he spoke things into being. And also things like Galatians chapter 5, where the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit. And then also there's other things that Paul is writing about, so much about the Spirit, and it's almost like he's writing commentary on this word hokmah. So that's kind of what I got out of it.
That's good. Did you notice how similar that passage is regarding wisdom as
Yeah.
Paul in 1 Corinthians 13 concerning charity?
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. And another one was Corinthians 2 verse 16 too. There's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Why does it refer to she instead of he?
I think it's a nature, more like a nature, because I think women tend to be more, they're not like a bull in a china cabinet, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be more delicate. And that's what the Spirit is. A lot of times they liken the Spirit like a dove. And if there's like commotion or chaos around, they're just gone, so.
Okay. Well, let me just add to this that the word, was written in Greek. Okay, Wisdom of Solomon written in Greek. The word in Greek is Sophia. It was translated into Hebrew, but it was originally Greek. So both Greek and Hebrew, Sophia and Chokmah, they're both feminine, for one thing. So you would have to finish through the sentence with the correct pronouns, she. But the scripture writer takes this a bit farther. There is an evolution of wisdom, yes, going back to the Spirit hovering over the waters. And you find throughout the wisdom literature, that would be Job, Wisdom of Solomon, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus, or Siroc. They're all wisdom literature. They all deal with this same thing. And reading on in that particular passage, you find that it was wisdom. She hovered over the water, and she was there in creation. Maybe this Siroc passage, we'll talk about that.
Jackson,
Yeah, go ahead.
I also looked up that, that the Book of Wisdom was written in Greek. And it said it was probably composed in Alexandria, Egypt, and maybe dated to about the middle of the 1st century. That's kind of what I found. So,
Okay, good. That's part of the Apocrypha of the Old Testament. One of the reasons the Apocrypha is not in the Jewish scriptures anymore is because it was simply written in Greek. They got rid of any Greek scriptures back in the 1st century. So that went the way of the trash heap. Fortunately, it was kept over to your earlier New Testaments that had that in it. Some denominations of Christians still use that text, but it really is one of my favorite texts because it's just written beautifully. Of course, Solomon couldn't have wrote it, but somebody did in about, as you said, 150 BC. Very good. How about the next one? Sandy, are you here?
I am. So I had the Siroc 10, verses 12 through 18. We start out, it says in verse 12 that the beginning of man's pride is to depart from the Lord. His heart has forsaken his maker. 13 says, for the beginning of pride is sin, and the man who clings to it pours out abominations. Therefore, the Lord brought upon them extraordinary afflictions and destroyed them utterly. The Lord has cast down the thrones of rulers and has seated the lowly in their place. The Lord has plucked up the root of nations and has planted the humble in their place. The Lord has overthrown the lands of nations and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. He has removed some of them and destroyed them, and has extinguished the memory of them from the earth. And verse 18 says, pride was not created for man, nor fierce anger for those born of women. I found this really an interesting passage because I kind of wrote the commentary out. I guess I wrote it out wrong, but the beginning of man's pride just basically starts with a thought. And the heart, it says his heart has forsaken his maker. The heart has 2 chambers. The belief at that time, and I still believe it, is that one side was physical and the other side was the emotional, intellectual, moral side.
Mm-hmm.
And, abominations, of course, are sin. So, what he's saying there is, I'm going to take you out. And it's interesting because he kind of goes back and forth. He says, the Lord has cast down the thrones. He's taken down kings and he's put the lowly in his place. We see that with Saul and David.
Sure.
And he's plucked up the roots of the nations and planted the humble there. We see that, when he, I got that here somewhere. I'm sorry. He just took them out. He just said, you're just not going to be there anymore. Hold on just a second. Next page. He said therefore the Lord brought upon them extraordinary afflictions, which is just pain and suffering. And he just still didn't feel that was enough, and he just wiped them out. But then he goes on to show to what extent that he'll go to destroy pride. He's going to take the king out. He's going to put somebody else there. He's going to take the nation out. We see that he removed 7 or 8 nations there, the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, and he put the Israelites there. He's overthrown lands and destroyed them from the foundations. It just really brought Sodom and Gomorrah to mind, where there is no foundation there to ever build again. Nothing's ever been built there. He removed some of them and even removed the memory of them from the earth. I mean, the earth doesn't even remember them. My mind can't fathom that. What he said was that pride was not created for man, nor fierce anger for those born of women. And we see that in Psalms 37:8. And it says, cease from anger and put away wrath. It's like Father is saying, I never, ever, ever wanted pride to show its ugly face for you people. But I'm going to destroy it, and it doesn't matter who or what I've got to take out. It's not going to be in the kingdom in the end.
That's good.
Cool.
Thank
Thank you.
Sandra.
You're welcome.
Kenneth, you got Tobit 7:9b through 12. If a verse has B on it, that means you start the second sentence.
It starts what? I was wondering what that meant.
Yeah, if there's a verse with a B on it, you start on the second sentence of the verse. I should have explained that before.
Okay, I didn't know that.
B would be the third sentence. A would be the first sentence. Well, now you know, brother.
I don't know if I done it right, but I'll just go through what I come up with.
Okay, read the text first.
All right. Tobit 7:10 through 12. For it is meet that you should marry my daughter. Nevertheless, I will declare unto you the truth. I have given my daughter in marriage to 7 men who died.
That
They-
passage, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Who died the night that they came into her. Nevertheless, for the present, be merry. But Tobit said, I will eat nothing here till we agree and swear to one another. Raoul said, then take her from henceforth according to the manner, for you are her cousin, and she is yours. And the merciful Elohim give you good success in all things.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of different.
Yeah, that is different. Okay, what you got? Anything?
All right. We'll read through. I kind of wrote it out.
That's
There's a
fair.
lot going on in these few verses. We see faith, hope, love, a miracle, and deliverance. That's the short answer. But we have to move around in the book a little to see what's going on, or I did, because when I read it, I kind of had the same reaction Jackson did there. But, Tobit was a faithful young man and had been since his youth. So was his father. His father loved Yahweh and also loved the people of Israel. He loved them so much that it was to his own hurt, that in some of his actions he was blinded. So after some time, Tobit was sent on a journey, and while getting his things together and wanting someone to travel with him that knew the land and where he was going, Elohim had sent an angel or a malach to his aid, or to aid Tobit, not only to his journey, but also in deliverance of a demon from his bride and a miracle for his father. Tobit had been told of a woman from his own clan where he was going, and just from her description, the text says that he fell in love with her and wanted her to be his wife. And so here we take up in verse 10 and 11. Tobit had asked Raoel for his daughter, and though he approved, we see that he told Tobit that she had been married 7 times, and each man had died before the consummation of the marriage. Even said, but for now be happy, as it would appear to Raoel that he was a little doubtful.
Yeah.
Tobit, on the other hand, had faith and knew that it was a demon that was oppressing his bride-to-be, and believed what he was told to do would work. On the journey, the angel, or malach, that was accompanying him told him to cut the fish apart and get his heart, liver, and gall, and told him how to use it. So he told Raoel with confidence, let's agree on this thing and let it be so. Then in verse 12, we see where Raoel gave him his blessing and said, may Yahweh do you well in all that you do. And this is what happened. Tobit used the heart and the liver of the fish and burned it on the incense to make smoke, which drove the unclean ruach from his bride, And we can conclude that the marriage was consummated because Tobit was alive the next morning. And also, and we all, let's see.
Do you remember anything that the New Testament might be referring to this passage?
Not right off.
Okay, it was the Sadducees that came to Yeshua and quizzed him or tested him. What happens if she had married 7 brothers?
Right.
Yeah, and the last one died. In heaven, who would she be married to? Well,
Right.
they probably didn't have the same version of Tobit that we have, but certainly the Sadducees got part of that from the Tobit. You remember the name of the demon? He's still loose today.
No, I started to make a note, but I didn't.
That's good. Did a good job. Asmodeus. Hang on to your text.
Okay.
Thank you, Kenneth. We've got Siroc 35, 12 through 17. And I have Hope's name here. Is she here? Is Jeremiah here?
Yeah, we're here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Okay. Yeah, so I have Siroc 35, 12 through 17. Do not think to corrupt with gifts, for such he will not receive. And trust not to unrighteous sacrifices, for Yahweh is judge, and with him is no respect of persons. He will not accept any person against a poor man, but will hear the prayer of the oppressed. He will not despise the supplication of the fatherless, nor the widow, when she pours out her complaint. Do not the tears run down the widow's cheeks, and is not her cry against him that causes them to fall. He that serves Yahweh shall be accepted with favor, and his prayer shall reach unto the clouds. The prayer of the humble pierces the clouds. Until it come nigh, he will not be comforted, and will not depart till Elion shall be cold to judge righteously and execute judgment.
Okay.
So for me, it was just kind of a reiteration of Yahweh as being the truly just judge. And so thinking about that he is very concerned with the cause of what we would consider marginalized people, fatherless and widow, and then that idea of the humble being exalted. So passages that came to mind for me was in the contrast with the unjust judge from Luke 18.
Sure.
And then of him giving the widow what she wanted because she came so much, but just them saying that that is not the way of Yahweh, that he is truly just and is concerned about justice. Also the verses in James about true religion being visiting orphans and widows.
I wondered if you were going to hit that one. Good
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, good.
And then I also thought of the Micah verse about doing justice and loving mercy. And then when I was just looking at justice verses, I wasn't so familiar, it didn't come to mind right away, but Isaiah 1:17 says, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause. So I actually found several verses throughout Old and New Testament that really just reiterate the importance of true justice and how important that is to Yahweh. And yeah, I didn't even know how many. I mean, I knew the ones that I just mentioned that came to mind right away, but I was surprised at really how many there are that confirm that theme of justice.
Very good. Scholars will tell us that the little letter of James actually goes through and uses Siroc in several places. I don't know that that's true, but there are, as you just exemplified, a lot of very close passages of really close ideas there in that section of Siroc along with James. So yeah, I'm glad that you found those other verses. You looked around and you found some that are practically the same thing, just said in different ways. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next we've got Wisdom of Jesus, 44, 1 through 5. That's another name for this book, Siroc, Ecclesiasticus, or Wisdom of Siroc, Wisdom of Jesus, son of Siroc, really his grandson, or Yahshua. So we got Jeremiah on chapter 44, and I know what this one has.
It says, let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord had wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. Such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecies. Leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning, meet for the people, wise and eloquent are their instructions. Such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing. Colon.
I love that, those verses. Well, tell us about them a little bit.
Well, I first wrote down that I thought this is a reflection of the values that the author was celebrating.
Absolutely.
And some of the values was masculinity. And I thought of note masculinity in the frame and association of music and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
In verse 5, it says that they found out musical tunes. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes, it is.
The second value I pulled out of there was a very democratic rule, that they were leaders of the people by counsel.
Yeah.
The third value is eloquence. In verse 4, it talks about wise and eloquent are their instructions. So there was a certain bit of refinement. What's the word? They were refined. They were a honed skill. It wasn't to be modern. They weren't noobs.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And I really like the phrase knowledge of learning.
There's a church holiday coming up pretty soon that this would be kind of a perfect passage to use if you were writing a sermon for this particular holiday. What would it be, do you think?
Is it Pentecost or Shavuot?
It's a church holiday, it's not a festival. But
Oh, I done forgot all the church holidays.
yeah, I did too.
I just turned it off just like that.
Yeah, I'm reminded of them every week. So this is the one that comes to my mind, and that was Father's Day. And
Okay.
actually, you could turn this around for mothers, or you could use this in an opportunity for speaking at Veterans Day. That's another area here. Let us all extol. What kind of men?
Famous men.
Famous men. Very good. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is Jesse here tonight? Okay, he's not here. Is Sean's here tonight?
Yes, I'm here.
You got an oddball.
I had the prayer of Azariah, 1 through 4, then 19 through 22. It says, they walked around in the midst of the flames, singing hymns to God and blessing the Lord. Then Azariah stood still in the fire and prayed aloud. Blessed are you, O Lord God of our ancestors, and worthy of praise, and glorious is your name forever. For you are just in all you have done. All your works are true and your ways right, and all your judgments are true. Do not put us to shame, but deal with us in your patience and in your abundant mercy. Deliver us in accordance with your marvelous works and bring glory to your name, O Lord. Let all who do harm to your servants be put to shame. Let them be disgraced and deprived of all power. Let their strength be broken. Let them know that you alone are the Lord God, glorious over the whole world. I really love Daniel. It's my belief that the entire book of Daniel is prophetic, and chapters 1 through 6 are just as prophetic as the rest. And I think that this is, chapter 3 follows a theme that started right in the beginning of Daniel and his companions. It says that he purposed in his heart not to sin. And then we see examples of that all through the book of Daniel. And this is, I believe, with the furnace, I believe that this is a picture of events that are yet to come in some form. But if you read the verses preceding these, it comes on the testimony from their mouths that they tell Nebuchadnezzar that they will not bow down to their image, to his image. And they said, even if God chooses not to deliver us, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not bow down to your image. And it says that the people were burned up just throwing them in.
Mm-hmm.
And the angel of the Lord came, and they were singing praise. And I think about the future, and I think about the fires of the tribulation that came in AD 66 through 73, and I believe a form of that will be repeated. We still have the beast system out there, and there's still the restoration to come that was promised. But regardless of the fact, I think that this is a testimony that these men lived their lives, in a hostile environment. They had no temple, they had no priesthood. It was them living. I almost would call it bare Torah, almost, in that they did what they could with all of their hearts, and they had prayed. That's so powerful that they purposed in their hearts not to sin. And what a testimony. And I love the prayers because it's kind of like it's not kind of, it's a direct indictment to those listening. It says, deliver us in accordance with your marvelous works and bring glory to your name, O Lord. So they know, as they're in the midst of this fire being protected, they know that they're bringing glory. The Father's bringing glory to his own name. And then this next verse is the one that really gets me. Let all who do harm to your servants be put to shame. Let them be disgraced and deprived of all power, and let their strength be broken. And let them know that you alone are the Lord God, glorious over the whole world. So,
Amen.
What a testimony.
For that.
Yeah, because then when they come out of the furnace, there's nothing left to be said. They had been delivered by the Father, but they had been delivered by the word of their testimony, I believe, because they practiced what they preached. Their lives was a living testimony to the Torah. And I think that, God's people in these, not now necessarily, but coming up at some point, we may be called to have faith just like this, and I pray that we do, because, we think about, I don't say we, but me, I just think about my daily trials and how often, how burdensome I feel they are to me, and then when you read passages like this and you see the praise and thanksgiving, it's just an incredible testimony for faith that, I pray I always have. That's about all I have, Jackson, about it.
Good. Yeah, very good. So Azariah, I get from your talk that he's one of the ones in the furnace, one of the young men in the furnace.
Yes.
Okay. This is part of the book of Daniel, the Greek passages from Daniel, along with a couple other little books like Susanna and Bel the Dragon, Prayer of Azariah. They're Greek additions to Daniel, which you'll find with the book of Daniel if you've got a Catholic scripture, because they kept that together. We don't have this in the Protestant book, of course, but they're very worthwhile. little books there that not only fun to try to exegete, but they're fun to read. They're funny to read in some cases. I know we don't have anybody on Bell, but that's about a friendly dragon. Prayer of Azariah. All right. Let's see, what I would ask you to, I don't think there's anybody else, is there? Did I miss anybody? Okay, when you do your readings, we're a Sacred Name Fellowship. So try to use however you pronounce the sacred name is fine, if it's supposed to be in there, rather than the Lord. And I'd ask you to use Elohim or El, or even Eloah for the word God. Because we've got to have that heard and give people a chance to see what they can make of it. Okay, what is a lectionary then? Did you get a chance to look into the lectionary? I know you can't do everything. How many did their ministry report? You still got a couple days for that.
I could not find the lectionary, but I did do my ministry report.
Okay. I saw your ministry report and I thank you. Anybody else? Okay, you need to get that in. And where is it? Oh, I can only tell you.
I got the lectionary.
You did? Where'd you find it, online?
Yeah, just Google.
Okay, well, these are Christian holidays, of course, but it's of great use to use that or some other kind of reading schedule. So you can, especially when you're using the text for devotional purposes or even for family devotions, or if you're putting together a message, because you and I, we like our pet doctrines. We're going to be stuck with them. I know when I got started, I wanted to talk about spiritual gifts, and that's all I wanted to talk about. So I went over to this lectionary and I used it for a year. It was tough to do that. It took a lot more time because there were lots of passages I was not familiar at that time. But after using those passages and putting together a program with them, then I became familiar. Now, on these passages that you just gave me the exegesis and the eisegesis for, what I want you to do next time, use the same passages, I guess, is I want you to break your passage down into 3 sections, 3 headers, 3 points. And I can't really tell you how to do that, but usually 3 points or maybe 2 points will pop out. Oftentimes in the middle of these passages, the whole idea will change that would mark a point to break off. But if you can put 3 points in there, that's what we'll do for next week. For you that think you're going to have trouble with that, you can get a hold of me or get Kenneth. He'll help you with it. So don't fret about it. We're just learning here. We're just learning. So we're starting at the beginning, and let's break it down because, of course, we're going to be looking to putting together a short message on these crazy passages. 3 points in a poem. You might have heard of that before. 3 points in a poem. Preachers make fun of that, but the fact is, it works. It works. And it's a good way to start because you're forced to use the text in the way it was supposed to be used. We are supposed to analyze the text and study the text, study on it. And if you get in the habit of doing this for a few texts, you'll do it from now on. And that'll help you a lot if you ever get a chance to do messages. We're going to go through sermon writing, funeral services, marriage services, and building a sermon based on these obscure texts. So if you've got like Hope's had auxiliary texts that you found, you might want to put those in someplace or make note of them so you can use them maybe as an auxiliary text, and you'll do well. You'll do well.
Jackson,
Yes.
on the poem, could you use like a psalm for a poem?
You can use a song, you can use a prayer. Here's, before you finish the thing up, you want to always have a challenge, a call to discipleship when you're starting at the end. And you want to bring them home to Jesus or whatever you're trying to get. You've got to have a challenge on the end. You've got, the reason that we're doing messages in the first place is to challenge people to do something, because faith without works is dead. It's worthless. My opinion is you can have all the faith in the world, and I hear people that brag about having faith and knowing God, and they don't do anything. That's not the Jamesian way. That's not the Siroc way. That's not the Elohim way. The Elohim way is for you to do something, and for you as a speaker, even if you're speaking in an informal situation or even to your family, there's got to be a challenge there. And you can look at our sermons that we are using on Shabbat. We've been pretty lax in that area, and especially when we have lectures and that kind of thing. We're just too lax with that. We've got to get a challenge. Now, I was really happy about the Tuesday night in the, let's see, it was the memorial sermon, and for some reason I can't remember what you call that. Yeek. I'll find it in a minute.
East Core.
Yeah, that's it. All of a sudden, I started getting money flowing into the flowing into the treasury. I thought, where did this come from? It's like Wednesday. Several different little donations came in Wednesday. And then I thought, well, somebody must have done a good job on that Tuesday night, because there was a response to that challenge. There was a response. I believe anyway that people sent in memorial money. Not that we needed memorial money, but it was a matter of giving somebody a challenge to do something and seeing that it was done. That's what I suppose it is. Why else would 3, 4, maybe 5 people send a little money in on a Wednesday other than that? So I thank you for that, and for rising to what challenges you have been signed out. I'm currently in another device. What's that all about? Are you still there? Oh, is anybody still here? Oh, I had a note come up here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Did somebody use my login to get in tonight?
Yeah, you wanted me to use your room to do the Hebrew class.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Now I know. No problem. I just wondered why I had a sign come up that said that it was kicking me off because somebody was in on my ID. That's fine. How did the Hebrew class go?
Very well, and the recording is on your account on it's in the cloud, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It shows cloud recording.
Well, watch the cloud, because I've noticed that, and I put them up there. If you put maybe 2 up there, you go over the little bit they give you, unless they've increased that. You go over it and then it's lost. I think that's what happened to, when was the last week's continuing education episode was, I must have hit it where it says record in the cloud and just went too long for the record up there. So very good. I'll pull that down. Now, I got a couple more things I want to do. That was very good. Thank you. I want to show you the case history business. There's the case study. How to do a case history. Where's mine? Okay. I have a case history here I wrote up for the last time we did this course in 2020. Here's how it works. We're going to write up about some episode we had in our lives with another person usually. And we want to put it on paper so that we can present it. It's just what it says. You've got a case. You're writing a brief history of that case. The case itself has to do with conversation with another person, helping another person, visiting another person, even things in your own mind, things you're dealing with can be dealt with a case. And we collect these cases because we can learn from each other on cases. I'll present a case of mine in just a minute, but first I want to show you the plan. This comes from a case study education format for advanced students, and we're not advanced students. So we're going to, I guess I'll have to send you this because it's password protected. I can't get into this or I'll have to change it. We begin with background data. Who are you? Who are you talking to? Where are you when the event occurs? What's on your mind? What did you expect? What didn't you expect? A very brief paragraph. Just tell us about the situation that you're in. Then, I don't know why this is in this order, there's a verbatim section. When you encounter another person and your interaction is such that you think you can do a case history out of it, then what you're going to want to do as soon as you get done is to write down briefly in a notebook or whatever you have, whatever you can remember about it. You don't want to take notes while you're in front of somebody, but you can remember long enough to even get very close to a verbatim account of what went on. So that's the second we do. Describe the nature and goals of the interaction, demonstrate critical insight, skills, show specific interventions and outcomes. This is what I'm thinking of. I don't care about the rest. Be specific about what was said, what was done, what your expectations were, and use quotations. You can remember what you said. You can remember what the other one said. And if you've got a wife or a family, this should be a pretty easy thing for you. So we've got background data. There's a section that is verbatim. And then we have an analysis. These other two, we're going to leave those out for the time being. You take a look at what you've written. You think back about the experience. And if there was a problem there that was to be solved, analyze it. If there wasn't, analyze it. What exactly do you think of it? What solution did it bring, if any? Did it not bring a solution to whatever it was? Well, we need to know that too. So we can share these and we can all kind of get a feel for your style of ministry, and you'll find out yourself soon enough when you do this. Background data, verbatim section, and then what do we say? Analysis. Those three sections. Now, Here's my case history. And I have some tips as well as a format here. So this is the introductory section. After we have a header, this is case history. This is part of supervised ministry, sample. I've got my name and the date. This case history concerned 3 appointments with Dr. G. You don't use names in these, you use a letter to stand for the name, who is the same age as me and whom I have known for about 10 years. This is one of my doctors. The first incident was in November 2018 and the second in November 2019 and the third today. So this is a compound case history. It's actually got 3 case histories in into one because they're all related. Now here's an approximate date. G is the doctor and J is me. So you've been in church work most of your life, eh? Said the doctor. I grew up in a staunch mainline church when I was a boy, he said. I was listening to the radio one day when an old church tune I recognized was being broadcast. I just heard the end of it, but it gave me a deja vu of when I was serving as an altar boy. And I'm interested in that. I know a lot of church songs and hymns. So I said, yeah, can you hum a little of it? So the doctor, in parentheses, I put what he did. He does hum a little, then tries to sing that bit, coming up with a few words. And then he says, I don't suppose you would know what that song is. It's obscure, but we sang it every week during communion. And again, this is not verbatim. This is what I remembered after taking notes back in 2019, right after the appointment. I came back with, I know a lot of hymns, and that one is called Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silent. So I sang the first phrase, but I can't remember the second. The doctor chimes in on the second verse, remembering the words. Yeah, that tune always gave me such a feeling of grandeur. And I said, well, now you know. Do you still go to church? He said, no, but my son goes to a contemporary church, and I've gone along a few times. And that was the end of this particular case. No analysis yet. Here's the second part of the case. I only expect you to do that much and then an analysis. But just to show you. November 2019, in the meantime, I became refamiliarized with the hymn and sang it with a friend. In fact, we sang this a number of times in our Shabbat service. We all liked it so much. Hey, I heard this song on the radio. And again, he sings, let all mortal flesh keep silence. I say, yeah, sure. We talked about the last time I was here, remember? 6 months had gone by. The doctor says, oh, yeah. Then we both sang a couple of lines and laughed a bit. He says, I've been going to church with my son's family, to a contemporary church, you know, with choruses instead of hymns and drums and all. Of course, we've already gone over this before last time. Yeah, I was into that too for a long time, but I got tired of it. I'm older now, and that's for younger people, I think. Doctor says, I really don't feel that comfortable there, but my son and his family want me to go. Then he goes on to tell me more about his childhood experience in church and how the staid traditional way of worship made him feel, even as a boy, so close to God. Well, why don't you just go back to that kind of church and try it out again? Maybe you'll feel comfortable now, just as then. And the doctor said, you think I would? See, he thinks I'm a theologian. He kind of brings these things up to me, usually the same one every time still. And I said, it can't hurt to try. So here's the third instance, February 2020. The doctor said, you remember we were talking about let all mortal flesh. He sings some of it and I chime in, just like before. Well, you know, I started going to the oldest Episcopal church around here, Trinity. It's been around for 100 years. And would you believe, each Sunday they sing this song right before communion. It's old-fashioned and quaint with stained glass windows and all that, but I really like it. And that's the end. 3 case histories in one, because it was three cases that dealt with the same thing. And here's an analysis. Very simple. Student minister and facilitator discuss the events as to whether an active ministry took place and whatever else may be significant in this exchange. So what I would do for an analysis, I see I didn't do an analysis. I might say that the doctor doesn't have a good memory. I might say that the doctor really seems like he wants to go back into church at this stage in his life. He's 68 years old. And now in the second one, he's going to church, but it's to a contemporary church where the music is loud as can be. And he didn't grow up that way. He just doesn't feel comfortable with it. He doesn't know any of the choruses, but he still remembers all these old hymns from the old days. The third part, well, he did go back. The old Trinity Church, is that here? That's here in Vero Beach. And he likes it. He likes it. Now, next time I go in, I'm going to follow this case. And I'm going to see just how much he likes it if he's still going. But that was the draw, really, that got him back to church, because he heard somebody he considered to be a theologian give him permission to go back to the church that he wanted to, rather than go to the contemporary church with his family. That would be my analysis. And I would say in the end that he helped me to remember a great old hymn that we used in our Shabbat services. And I think I helped him to go back to the church that he feels comfortable in. So that would be my analysis right there. Whether it's right or wrong, you can get a lot deeper, I suppose, into that, but it's simple as that. And here's some tips. It's preferable to center on an act or conversation that's going on while you are in a position as a minister, such as in whatever ministry you are assigned to for your supervised ministry experience. Right now, there's no assigning, but there will be pretty soon. Will be when I get to know you a little bit better. You think about your calling. What is your calling now? Some might say, I've got a big family. My calling's to my family. Some might say, well, my family's doing fine. I get a chance to, at work, to talk about this. And I am not talking about witnessing or soul winning. I am not talking about threatening people with hellfire or trying to get them to go to church. That's not what this is about. This is about casual conversations that you, if you want to be a little manipulative, can turn into a case history that that you can turn in here and we can use and talk about. You can see I was a little manipulative there just by bringing up that hymn after he asked about it. I could have just said nothing and went home and not had to deal with it. But anytime there is a conversation, anytime somebody else opens their mouth or does something, it is an opportunity for ministry. You just have to reframe it from your usual goings on and say to yourself, this is an opportunity to say something, do something, even to agree with someone or even disagree with somebody. Second, the dialogue need not be exactly what was said, nor do you need to record your conversations. However, after the event, you'll want to take down a few notes so you don't forget the reality of what has taken place or been said. In this particular exchange, these three, I was anticipating doing a class like this. And so that was really the first interaction that came up after I decided to do this. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a case history on this. And it turned out over the course of a year and a half there that I was able to add to it. Third, the style of the case history should be legible and typed out if possible for your presentation. And during the presentation, which could be in a small class, you may make appropriate but brief remarks as commentary as you go along reading it. Fourth, the analysis is done by classmates and or the facilitator. So you come to a certain analysis of what went on, and we are going to, with the case history, we're all going to get in on the act. So you might not feel comfortable with this right now, but I guarantee you within 2 weeks you will, and you'll see how easy it is. And don't take this one as a complete example, because as you see, it's 3 case histories. Really, 1 case history is right here, and it's even pretty well packed. I pretty well packed it. I just don't have the analysis. In fact, looking at the time, we'll do the analysis at another time next week. Any questions? Here's another one. I found this kind of hard to read. It's in a little different format, but it gives a better idea of the analysis we're looking for. In fact, this is in a great deal of detail. If you want this, I'll send it over to you. Just let me know in the chat. Now, case history, analysis. Please do that ministry report, because that in itself is a case history. And remember, when you do it, it has to do with the past, has to do with your present and the future, where you see yourself going. I don't know if Valerie's still on here or not, but she's been very faithful with the case history. I don't know if you met her or not. Valerie is, as I mentioned before, she's the proprietor of Douglas Essene, and she's got a great ministry up in Douglas, Georgia, and she does a great job with her ministry reports. She keeps them short, but she is able to get to the crux of the matter. And again, I think that I showed you on the first week one of these reports, and it was her report, correct? All right. At this link, if you haven't done this already, it's the literature review with the Didache and the Barnabas and that stuff. Is anybody still here?
Yep.
Okay, that thing came up again. So here's a form for that, or the link for that. That is the literature review. This is the first thing I assigned you, to go through those books, and some of you did it, and some of you have come on since then. So here's your link for that. And now, to end up the night, I got a nice little review for you right at this second link.
Jackson, I don't think you're sending that to the whole group. I'm not seeing your links come up.
Oh, it's coming up. It's Steve, send it to the whole group. I think it went to you. Yeah, if you're still there, Steve, send it to the whole group. Thank you. And this one is the review from the last 4 weeks. It's a quiz. It's a quiz. It's pretty easy. I would ask you not to use outside sources. Just do it from your memory best as you can. It's at that link. Go ahead and take that, and I'll let you go. And those quizzes, reviews, opportunities for you to shine, they're going to come back to me, and I'll look at them, and we'll all look at them next time. Questions, comments, anything else? Maybe you can see what we're building to here. The second segment in this is the supervised ministry segment. And I believe that's going to start next week or the week after, once we get the case history thing down and you get your points behind your passage. Okay, we thank you, Father Yahweh, for this time, a sacred time together. I thank you for the love that's grown between us, all us friends here, like-minded friends. Father, I pray that you would bless these adults who are now students in a way. I pray that you would give them an intellect in order to try to make out what I'm talking about, for one thing. I pray that the Spirit would bring that through. And that even as they do these exercises, these histories, this review, there's no reason that you can't pour out your Ruach HaKodesh on them and give them a greater sense of calling and of mission. In fact, that they would be able to identify their calling and mission, and then you would be able to open the door for them to go, any place in your name, and see greater results than they ever have before. And we thank you. Amen ve'amen. Good night, everybody. If you got a question about that review, just email me and I'll let you know.